Thank you for presenting tonight. Sorry we're running a little late.
No worries, it works out for me. Mayor, City Council, thank you this evening. I've been asked to give a presentation on the city's cybersecurity efforts and ongoing initiatives. This is my first one, so bear with me as I try to navigate the line between keeping things informative but also protecting some of the sensitive information. Tonight we'll probably focus on the collaboration across the city and some philosophy behind what it is that we do. The things we'll look at tonight are some recent projects that IT's been working on like the last 6 to 8 months. Some ongoing still. The 2024 COP funds, strategic approach behind that, the redesign and hardening of the network, which is something we're always working on and always looking at, resident impact, response planning, and then a question that I get asked seemingly almost every other week at this point: are we good? We see what happens to communities and counties around us, so I'm sure that's the question on City Council's mind: are we good? So we'll hopefully provide some assurances there, and then we'll finish with some questions if there are any. Recent projects: the co-location of Gladstone, Liberty, and Clay County Dispatch. Not taking sole credit for this one by any means. A lot of teamwork and detail went into this project. I think it's nice to look back and see how seamless the transition went, especially given all the planning that went into it. The police headquarters expansion, it's not every day that the city expands its footprint, so there was a lot of interesting challenges there. Those last couple weeks leading into the move-in date, I mean, Trent and Eric worked their butts off to make it happen, so kudos to them. The City Hall shuffle, not a lot of planning compared to the last two. And we knew that going into it. That was not a knock on anybody. We figured out a lot of things on the fly, and it was a real test of our ability to adapt. So if anything, we enjoyed it. Not looking to do it again anytime soon, but we enjoyed it. Enjoyed the process. The firewall migration, that's not a glamorous looking project on the screen, but it's a big one, especially for us. Our partners at Logicalis worked on that for probably 7 months before we did a cutover, and we did it so good that I don't think anybody even noticed. So a lot went into that. The Wi-Fi expansion of the community center, that's one that was kind of brought to light by the COP funds. I think the city struggled for a long time to provide what really is like it's a basic amenity to the guest community center. So we finally pulled the trigger on that, and I think we've been live for a month and I haven't heard a single complaint. So now we've got a network over there that can scale to the needs of the community center, and it's not dependent on City Hall's network. So some security benefits there as well. The equipment surplus, again, not a glamorous one, but a little shout out to Eric and Trenton. They moved probably 2,500 pounds of computer equipment from the surplus closet to the Parks and Rec garage, and then from that garage to the box truck. So, I mean, they worked their butts off on that one too. Hardening and response planning, that's not necessarily a new project or one that's going to go away, but now that we don't have construction on our hands, we're definitely putting more resources into looking at the network from different perspectives. The 2024 COP funds, in January, $300,000 from the 2024 COP funds were allocated to the improvement and redesign of certain IT infrastructure. This investment aims to enhance system efficiency, bolster cybersecurity measures, and support the growing technological needs of the city. As of June 6th, over $110,000 of the COP funds have been used to purchase hardware upgrades that directly impact the storage capabilities and recoverability and services provided by the city. That $110,000, those are the items where, initially I sat down with the city manager and finance director and we said, okay, these are our highlighted items. We know that one, we can take on the project immediately, and it's going to provide a great impact to city security. So some of those are already complete, and then some we're working on. Strategic approach. This is just a little bit of philosophy we take, not just to spending the COP funds, but really every day when it comes to making adjustments to the network. We're looking to enhance efficiency, effectively allocate funds to support products and partners that are considered good long-term investments. We don't want to look back in 5 to 6 years and say, oh, we messed up. We're doing our due diligence, take our time, make sure we're bringing in good products. Strengthen cybersecurity, implement products and platforms that have a proven track record and creating resiliency and redundancy on the network. I know City Manager Bob Baird, those are his 2 words, resiliency and redundancy. So we're always trying to focus on those 2 things. We don't want there to be one single point of failure on the network. We're always looking, okay, well, if this fails, what's our fallback? Continue to implement best practices when it pertains to the security of the network, maintain and rehearse response plans in the event of a cybersecurity incident. Improve scalability and flexibility, implement products and hardware that are sustainable considering not only budget but anticipated growth. Again, in 5, 6, 7, 8 years, we don't want to look back and say, oh, we messed up. We want to make sure we're laying the groundwork now so that we can continue on later down the road. Redesign and hardening. The IT team is constantly looking for ways to strengthen and improve existing services. Through the 2024 COP funds, the team is able to pursue some of these proposals. Highlights include targeting equipment nearing end of product life cycle. And what I'm talking about there is devices that are on the network that are typically more resilient, so they don't get looked at as often, and they degrade at a lower rate than some of the other things we see. So this is our chance to kind of reset the timer on that. That way we're not worrying about it for the next 18 years. Server upgrades, that's going to affect every service that we provide, from the website to internal finance systems. Increasing redundancy through network design. Again, that's just taking a look at the network from different perspectives and making incremental changes. I think if you were to take the network today on paper and compare it to a year ago, they're two totally different things, and then hopefully in a year it's a totally different thing. We don't want to become complacent. We're always looking to make changes. Resident impact, how do these initiatives impact our community? Through protecting data, through the deployment and implementation of new data standards, the city is more aware and protective of the data it is trusted with. Anytime we encounter a new data set or even a data set that we're familiar with, we're always looking at what kind of data are we holding? If it's sensitive data, do we need it? Because if we don't need it, then why do we have it to begin with? And then is there redundancy in place? And is there a data recovery plan in case of a loss? Web services, residents now have better virtual interactions with the city, and there may be a website redesign in the future. I know out of all the slides, that's probably going to be the sticking point. Oh, a website redesign. We understand that that's much more than just a technology venture, and we'll need to have everybody on board for that, but I think we're starting to look at it. Network stability. By fostering a resilient, redundant network, the city can consistently offer a wide range of services. We're always looking uptime. We want to make sure that we can provide those services at all times. And if there is an outage, we have a way to notify citizens. Response planning. Planning a response to a cybersecurity event is a collective effort. Leadership from across the city are actively involved in the development and constant reassessment of existing contingency planning. In the past year, we've seen a significant increase in the rate at which these conversations take place, and we all know why that increase is happening, because we see it happening around us. We hope to see response simulations later this year. There is no intention to reach a point in our response planning to where we are no longer considering modifications. Then the question, are we good? A question frequently posed, probably every other week, often met with an undesired response. Our team's primary objective is readiness. While investing resources to bolster resiliency is essential, ignoring our ability to respond to events would be a disservice to those resources. So it's not a simple question. I think we've got the right pieces in place to respond, and we have leadership for support. Leadership has consistently demonstrated their eagerness to support IT initiatives, and that gives me confidence, and the cities will continue to innovate. Questions? Okay.
Any questions?
It was a lot and it was fast, I understand.
Well, Keenan, I personally have just recovered from working in an organization that had a cybersecurity breach. It was very difficult to basically to gather all the information that we needed to provide to the IT department. I mean, it basically came down to every computer in the entire organization was taken and cleaned, including security camera site networks, all of that. They were all infected. And so basically my question to you is, we all think we're ready, but we're not.
Right.
And so when this happens, what are we doing to prevent it from our desktops? Are you doing phishing exercises, those types of things? Because it was an email that shut us down. So.
And that's all it takes, and we understand we could throw as much money as we want to equipment. There's also user training, there's antivirus on every computer. But then again, I think the most important component is that, just last week I had a meeting with Chief Ferris and Chief Desitals, and we're talking about, okay, in the event that this does happen, how are we going to get police moving? How are we going to get fire moving? How are we going to communicate with the citizens? So I think we're taking the right steps, but like you said, you never know.
Yeah, have you ever considered just having a conversation with any of the IT directors that have gone through this? To prepare yourself
I could
for
reach
it?
out to them, yeah.
Might not be a bad idea. Thank you. Thank you very much. Call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome you to the June 10th, 2024 regular city council meeting. Madam Clerk, please note that Councilman Spencer Davis is not present due to a business commitment. All other council are present. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Approval of tonight's agenda. If there are no objections or changes to the agenda, it will stand as presented. Are there any objections or changes? Okay, thank you. I would like to entertain a motion for the approval of the May 13th, 2024 regular city council meeting minutes.
Mayor as follows.
Councilmember Moore.
I move for the approval of the May 13, 2024 regular city council meeting minutes.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes stand as approved. We'll call for a motion the approval of the May 13th, 2024 closed city council meeting minutes.
Mayor as follows.
Councilmember Moore.
I move for the approval of the May 13, 2024 closed city council meeting minutes.
Second?
All in favor? Say
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes will stand approved. Next, we have a proclamation. Charlie Seitz from the Clay County Senior Services would come up. We've got a proclamation for the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Nice to have you here tonight. We've got such a wonderful partnership with Clay County Seniors here in Gladstone and throughout the Northland, and we are happy to present this proclamation to you this evening. Whereas older adults deserve to be treated with respect and dignity to enable them to serve as leaders, mentors, volunteers, and vital participating members of our communities. And whereas in 2006, the International Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse, in support of the United Nations International Plan of Action, proclaimed a day to recognize the significance of elder abuse as a public health and human rights issue. And whereas June 15, 2024 marks the 19th annual World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, its recognition will promote a better understanding of abuse and neglect of older adults. And whereas the National Center on Elder Abuse, NCEA, and the City of Gladstone recognize the importance of taking action to raise awareness, prevent, and address elder abuse. And whereas as our population lives longer, we are presented with an opportunity to think about our collective needs and future as a nation. And whereas ageism and social isolation are major causes of elder abuse in the United States. And whereas recognizing that it is up to all of us to ensure that proper social structures exist so people can retain community and societal connections, reducing the likelihood of abuse. And whereas preventing abuse of older adults through maintaining and improving social supports like senior centers, human services, and transportation will allow everyone to continue to live as independently as possible and contribute to the life and vibrancy of our communities. And whereas, where there is justice, there can be no abuse. Therefore, NCEA urges all people to restore justice by honoring older adults and join us in our engaging and empowering movement and putting an end to abuse. Now, therefore, I, Tina M. Spall, Mayor of the City of Gladstone, Missouri, on behalf of the members of the Gladstone City Council and all Gladstone residents, do hereby proclaim June 15th as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in Gladstone, Missouri, and encourage all of our communities to recognize and celebrate older adults and their ongoing contributions to the success and vitality of our country. Thank you. Chris Marcy. Oh, yes. Do you have anything you'd like to say tonight? You're welcome. Thank you.
Since it is going to be Elder Abuse Awareness Day on the 15th, we kind of celebrate the whole month. We wear the color purple. And I just came from a meeting, and I found out in 2023, the last meeting, or the last year, 844 hotlines were made during that year for Clay County alone. And it was for elder abuse. And the thing is, most of it was because of neglect. Not just neglect by somebody, but somebody happened to be that person. So it was self-neglect. And so I just want to emphasize to you, if you have neighbors and you have community members, please be checking on them if they're older adults. We don't know what their lives might be like. We don't know if they have some physical, emotional, or mental issues that is causing them to stay home and be isolated. And then what happens is that can lead to situational depression and maybe worse. And so they are neglecting themselves, and they're not eating because they may be depressed and alone, and they just feel lost. So just keep these people in your minds. Think about the people who live in your neighborhood. Is there anybody you need to check on? Is there somebody down the street that you haven't seen come and go out of their house lately? Do you know somebody who hoards? That's a real thing, and that needs to be addressed, and that can be dangerous for the people who live in those homes that are hoarding. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Really, I just want you to be aware of that and your community and help us take care of all of our older adults in Clay County. Okay? Thank you so much.
One more picture here. Great job. Thank you so much. All right, we're on item 8 on the agenda, communications from the audience. Members of the public are invited to speak about any topic not listed on the agenda. While speaking, please state your name and address for the record and limit comments to 5 minutes. Please, Mr. Oldenbecken.
Good evening, my name is Jim Oldenbecken. I live on 76th Terrace. I'm again attired as a person who lived in this area in the 1830s. I do this to bring attention to the current efforts to provide for a meaningful and memorable commemoration of the 250th anniversary of our country, a quarter millennium, coming up in 2 years, 20 days. Work is underway with a group called Clay County 250. I won't say much about it because I have another topic, but this group has an event coming up on July the 4th. It's a public reading of the Declaration and the Constitution, including in other languages, because I think many of us know that in our area we have many different languages that are spoken at home. Might be one of 4 languages that they speak, including English. But this is an effort for inclusion and welcoming. I have a report. I have some comments regarding IRIS and ZTRIN, the public transportation that our city has arranged for our citizens. Public transportation is important. Some people prefer to use public transportation for very good reasons. Others need to use public transportation. Sometimes it's just simply a matter of they're between cars, or it's a family with 2 adults, 1 vehicle. I have used IRIS for almost 3 months. I have a vehicle that is older and sometimes is unpredictable. Does not run well for long distances. So I've appreciated the service. But in using it from the beginning, I experienced some problems with service. And I documented my experience because I thought it would be helpful. I remember in this room when the decision was just before the decision was made to make the changes that we reflect what we have now. What is my time right now?
You've got about 3 minutes,
Okay.
maybe 2 minutes, actually.
Okay.
2 minutes, yeah.
I have experienced and documented what I believe is a failure rate of 25 to 33% of the time from all issues. Failure to arrive during the promised pickup point, failure to arrive by the promised drop-off time, which results in being late to work, late to pick up the kids, if that is your situation, late to public meetings, late to doctor's appointments. So unpredictable, I don't rely on it when it's important because I cannot count on it. Sometimes the wait is up to an hour for them to show up after I had a window, a time on the app. Failure to provide any ride sometimes during rush hour or other busy times. There are occasions I've witnessed drivers that drive unsafe. Failure to drive under the posted Gladstone speed limit. Failure to signal in time for a turn or lane change per Missouri statutes. Picking up passengers or dropping them off while still on North Oak, Traffic Way, or Antioch Prospect. Excessive or unsafe use of a cell phone or laptop while driving. And having no decipherable policy on how to return any items left by passengers on a vehicle. Very different from my experience with Uber. I do leave things in vehicles. I've taken screen captures of their app to document this. I'm willing to provide this if you wish for your use. Complaints by drivers. The Z-Trip promised drivers, I think the cities, that there would be specified zones that drivers work. But with the Z-Trip, per the drivers later dropped this, and most of my rides come from south of the river during rush hour. Maybe that's why they're late. Drivers are responsible for their own fuel costs, so this change affected them and their net pay. I want this to be on the radar screen. I recommend the following. I may run out of time and I can provide this later, but basically, I ask that the city consider contacting Kansas City ATA to request the data that you need to see what the quality standards are, how your citizens are affected. Instance, this can all be available, I'm sure, from their app and database. Instances when passengers are not picked up on time, dropped off late, no rides available. All data related to their decision to drop zones. I think it's ridiculous to have somebody come from the Triangle and go all the way to the airport. Complaints by riders, complaints by drivers, the ratings given by Gladstone riders. But be mindful that when I rate, I'm not going to penalize a great driver because Z-Trip has issues. I recommend most of all that you consider doing what a citizen suggested in this room right about the time that, you had some public comment. And that was a citizen who recommended that you use public transportation. You should know for yourself. Huh?
Yeah, I want to address that, and thank you, Mr. Oldenbeck, for bringing that. It's not often that we actually had a lot of complaints, and I'm sure a lot of those are directed to Iris, and we don't hear about that. But ironically enough, we have scheduled KCATA to actually come to a study session. I believe it's on the 24th of this month to actually do a study session, show some of that data, and give us material to ask them about, so we appreciate that.
That's very helpful, thank you. Anyone else, please?
Hi, my name is Debbie Runge Dowden. I own property in a house at 7612 North Broadway. I called in last Thursday, June 6th, to talk to Park and Rec's department, talk to Jared, and the problem I had, he sent me on to Matt Adams. I left a message there. I was told that Matt was in and he would return my call. He didn't. I also called a few minutes later over to Public Works and I talked to the secretary. She said Tim was in. I left a message with her and I didn't get a call back. So I'm struck out twice now. I'm in here tonight because Hobbyville Park is causing an extreme environmental problem on my farm. This farm has been in my family for 65 years. I have no water in my creek. It is barely running. That has just happened in the last couple months. Your holding pond, has anyone looked at it? It's full of like silt or whatever you want to call it. It's not. It is all stopped up. I was calling in because I have no water on my farm coming through my creek for my animals, etc. I have talked to Tim in the past. He has walked my farm because the holding pond was somehow fixed to where it would hold water, but when it would storm, my farm got the runoff. The holding pond didn't fill up a little bit more, it stayed the same. So I talked to Tim, he walked my farm, he agreed that, yeah, there is flooding, we need to come over here with some equipment, bring some rock and shore up some areas. He agreed, he saw the flooding. Now, I have no water. And nobody has called me back since Thursday. Nobody.
Mr. City Manager, can you address that?
Yeah, I think Director Nevergall's here tonight, and he would be happy to talk to you now, after you're done there.
Well, I was hoping to try and, I was talking to the right people or communicating in the beginning with the right people, but.
And you are, and this is not a question and answer session for us to be able to
Okay. No, I understand.
respond to you. So that's why we would like for you to talk to Director Nevergall.
So, and I do know them.
Okay.
Because I met with them before. So, okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
If we could, City Manager, when we get requests like this, can we get maybe a summary of what transpired after we made contact with these folks? Just so we know what's happened, what the result is?
Yeah, I think typically when we do this, we update an FYN with the council, so I see us doing that again.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Just one.
Okay.
John Gladstone, 76 Terrace by Aldi's. I've been there 45 years, way before Aldi's. Basically have three things to cry about. Number one, the same three that I bring up every time. Why can't the city make Aldi's pick their trash up? It's a multi-million-dollar business. They probably generate 50,000 or more a day. They can't spend 2 minutes to have someone pick the trash up. It's to the point now it's clogging up all the catch basins, which all goes into the creek, which all is clogging up the cave. That's a different story. It's bringing my property value down. I'm getting ready to probably put my house on the market after 45 years, and my realtor says, hey, if we can't make this happen, get this cleaned up. It looks like downtown on the side of the highway every single day. And when the mower guy comes and rips everything into 20 more shreds, because it ain't his job to pick the trash up, it just gets worse and worse. Number one. Number two, let's go down to the park. The Frisbee players are maniacs. They love to fly from park to park to park, usually in cars, packs of 3. They race each other from park to park to park. This must be a good park. They like to flock here. Half the cars are from Kansas City, Kansas. I guess that makes no difference to anybody. But we got to slow the traffic down. When the traffic is down there on Saturdays or Sundays, there's so much traffic at the park that there's no way that a fire truck could turn around. No way, no way. I don't believe it's ever been tried. Why? I don't know. Number 3, what happened to the $600,000 that was going to correct the drainage on 76 Terrace? The surveyors came last winter for 2 weeks. Most of them marks are gone. Some of the marks they put in, including in my front yard, are over 10 feet off the property line where they should not be. Okay. What happened to that money and when's it going to happen?
Thank you.
$600,000.
I can get you all to look at this picture. My name's John Stover. I live at 1 Northeast 63rd Terrace. I look at that every day. The man's running the trash service out of his house, and that's my only complaint. I've been up here talking to the police. They said they wouldn't even pull him over going down the road. And when he left, half of that load fell out of his trailer. And he does this for a year and a half now. And the officials I've talked to said that he's not breaking any laws. So I'm just up here to tell you people, please do something. That's the only thing I have to say. He's at 6308 Main. And since he's moved in, he's been running that business. And he's got 3 of those trailers. And sometimes they're in his yard or on the street. But every day on Fridays, he brings a load home like that and sits there till Monday night. And usually in the evenings. And he's got it figured out if he brings them home in the evening or on the weekends. Nobody says anything. So I'm just tired of looking at it every day. And I've had neighbors complain to me about it. And I said I'd come up and talk to you about that. That's all I got to say.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Can you show that to Austin? He'd like to see that, please.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Actually, Mayor, if I may,
Yes,
I believe Chief Ferris would like to have a conversation with him. Stick around for a second and have a conversation with him, see if we can get this resolved.
I want to see the picture. Oh, yeah, don't you love that every day?
Is there anyone else from the audience that would like to speak this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to council reports. Councilman Garnos?
I have nothing to say, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Moore?
I have nothing, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
I have nothing, thank you.
Thank you. And I have nothing also. So we'll move on to communications from the city manager.
Well, I have a couple things, actually,
Thank you.
Mayor. The Sounds in the Square is officially back, and we're really proud of that. And join us at Linden Square throughout the summer. You can visit the city's website to see the exact dates and details of the performers that will be there this year. And it's growing and very well attended anymore. So we're really proud of that. The electronic cycling event is happening this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Gladstone Public Works. And residents can have their electronics recycled for free with proof of residency. There'll be a small fee. We'll apply for television. So. That is all.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 11, the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, will you please explain and read the consent agenda?
A consent agenda allows the city council to consider and approve routine items of business without discussion. Any member of the city council, the city staff, or the public may request removal of any item from the consent agenda and request that it be considered under the regular agenda if discussion or debate of the item is desired. Items not removed from the consent agenda will stand approved upon motion by any council member, second unanimous vote, to approve the consent agenda as published or modified. Consent agenda, consider special event permits. Carnival Time, Inc. Celebration, Happy Rock Park West, Friday, June 7, 2024, 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. Trivia Night, Linden Square, Thursday, June 20, and Wednesday, July 31, 2024, 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock p.m. Movie Night, Linden Square, Saturday, June 22nd, and Saturday, July 27, 2024, 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock p.m. Theater in the Park, Oak Grove Park, Friday through Sunday, June 28, 29, 30, and August 2, 3, 4, 2024, 8:30 to 10:30 p.m. Independence Day Celebration, Oak Grove Park, Thursday, July 4, 2024, 5 o'clock to 11 o'clock p.m. Pickin' on the Front Porch, Atkins Johnson Farm and Museum, Saturday, September 21, 2024, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. Pumpkin Festival, Big Shoal Farm, Saturday, September 21, 2024, 10 o'clock a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m. Resolution R-24-25, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Gallagher in the total amount of $27,621.42 for cyber liability coverage for the 2025 fiscal year. Resolution R-24-26, a resolution authorizing acceptance of a proposal from CDW-G in the amount of $32,999.84 for the purchase of 16 Aruba switches. Resolution R-24-27, a resolution authorizing change order number 9 in the amount of $170,720 to the contract with Lantel Communication Services Incorporated for the FY23 Curb, Gutter, and Sidewalk Program Phase 2, Project TP2305. Consider financial report for 10 months ending April 30, 2024.
Thank you. Does anyone from the audience, city council, or staff wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Spallo,
Councilmember Moore.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda stands approved. And we'll move on to our regular agenda, item number 12. It's resolution R-24-28, a resolution adopting the 2025 annual operating budget for the city of Gladstone, Missouri, and authorizing the expenditures of funds for municipal services.
Mayor Spallo.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
That's okay, you can call me anything you'd like. Move we approve resolution R-24-28. Second.
We've got a motion and a second to approve R-24-28. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 24-28 stands approved. Next, item 13, resolution R-24-29. A resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with McGuire Iron Incorporated in the total amount not to exceed $15,700 for the design of water tank renovations, project WP2492C.
Mayor Spallo,
Councilmember Moore.
I move for the adoption of resolution R-24-29.
Second.
Resolution R-24-29, we've received a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution R-24-29 stands approved. Our next item is item 14, resolution R-24-30. A resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Yates Electric Company Incorporated in the total amount not to exceed $378,124 for downtown Gladstone lighting, project T02311.
Mayor Spallo.
Councilmember Moore.
I move for the adoption of resolution R-24-30.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mayor Spallo.
Councilmember.
You just call me Hay if you'd like.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, hey you. If I may, just because this is kind of an exciting project, ask city manager to kind of explain that for the folks that are in the audience.
I'd be happy to, Mayor Pro Tem. The 2020 COP project contained three basic projects. One was the downtown renovation of the parking project, and then the outdoor pool project, the renovation of the outdoor pool, and then the addition and renovation of fire station number 2. That was all included in that COP. Those projects went off without a hitch. Downtown parking we did, but we withheld doing the final piece of that design, which was the lighting project with the street lights and the festoon lighting, because we wanted to make sure that the outdoor pool and the fire station, which had a higher priority to us at the time, actually were able to be completed. Those projects were completed and it actually came in a little under budget. And so the funding is available now to go back and finish up the original design of the downtown renovation and the parking that we had done. And so that's what we're going to do. COP funds can only be spent on the COP projects that you say in the initial lease purchase, the agreement that you do. And so that funding was available and has to be spent on the project that it was intended for. So now that everything else is done and completed to our satisfaction, we're able to go back and complete the third project.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving resolution 24-30, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution R-24-29 stands approved. Next item is item 15, resolution R-24-31. A resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a professional engineering services agreement with Lamp Reinerson Incorporated in the total amount not to exceed $784,167.39 for the completion of design of the water treatment plant improvements, project WP2492B.
Mayor Spallo.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
I move we approve resolution R-24-31.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any
Mayor
discussion?
Spallo.
Yes, please.
Again, I'm not trying to put the city manager on the spot, but we approved the budget earlier. We had a public hearing on that, and this is another promise to spend money as we said we would. And explain that for us, please.
I'd be happy to, Mayor Pro Tem. If you recall, 2 years ago we had an extensive study done on the water plant on what improvements needed to be made, and so this is the byproduct of us moving towards that and doing the recommendations that they had. The 2024 COP that was approved this year actually had $14 million allocated in that for water infrastructure, to include the water tank that you've already, the design of the water tank that is approved in resolution 2428, I think. No, 2429. And then this is a major portion of the first start of the water plant, which is the design phase, and it's the most important. So we're just starting to move forward on the exciting projects for the water infrastructure that we agreed to when we issued the COPs, and it is actually one of the council goals for this year.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution R-24-31. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution R-24-29 stands approved. Item number 16, first reading bill number 24-18, an ordinance directing the city manager to execute a cooperative agreement with the North Kansas City School District for providing a school resource officer at Antioch Middle School.
As follows.
Councilmember Garnos.
I move to place bill number 24-18 on its first reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to place bill number 24-18 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? All in favor of placing bill number 24-18 on its first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
First reading bill number 24-18, an ordinance directing the city manager to execute a cooperative agreement with the North Kansas City School District for providing a school resource officer at Antioch Middle School.
As follows.
Councilman Garnos.
Move to accept the first reading of bill number 24-18, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of bill number 24-18, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of placing bill number 24-18 on its second and final reading, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
Second reading bill number 24-18, an ordinance directing the city manager to execute a cooperative agreement with the North Kansas City School District for providing a school resource officer at Antioch Middle School.
As follows.
Councilman Garnos.
I move to accept the second and final reading of bill number 24-18 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.673.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the second and final reading of bill number 24-18 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.673. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Garnos.
Aye.
Councilmember Moore.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Aye.
Mayor Swallow.
Aye. Bill number 24-18 stands enacted as ordinance number 4.673. Item number 17 is a public hearing. Site plan revision for property at 7200 North Broadway, Gladstone, Missouri. I will open the meeting. During the public hearing, we will hear first from staff, then from the applicant, followed by those in favor of the application, and then those opposed to the application. We have our staff presentation first. Assistant City Manager Austin Greer.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. The applicant is requesting a site plan approval for the purpose of constructing a new 5,000 square foot gas station and convenience store located at 7200 North Broadway. This property is currently vacant in zone CP2, which is an appropriate zoning for the proposed use. This project was proposed in 2023 and denied by the Gladstone City Council. The property owner has made adjustments to the site plan, and those adjustments include the following. The access point on Northwest 72nd Street has been shifted west to line up with the post office access point. The water quality pond has been moved from the northern side of the property to the western side of the property, away from the residential homes located to the north. This basin will be located on the Kansas City, Missouri parcel. The wooded area on the northern side of the property will primarily remain untouched. This project will also incorporate a drive-through lane and window, as well as 2 electric vehicle charging stations and a commercial bike rack. There will be 10 fuel pumps covered by a canopy to serve customers. The primary exterior building materials used will be brick and stucco. The landscaping plans show new landscaping throughout the property using various trees and shrubs, and all disturbed areas will be sodded and irrigated. A traffic study was conducted by Priority Engineers Incorporated, and they provided a summary of their findings. Given the conclusions and recommendations made by the traffic engineers, City staff will be requiring the installation and construction of a left turn lane or a right in, right out for the entrance on North Broadway at the property owner's expense. City staff recommends that the following conditions be considered if the City Council chooses to approve this project request. Number 1, any and all disturbed areas shall be sodded. Number 2, all manicured grass and landscaped areas shall be irrigated and maintained in perpetuity. Number 3, install a minimum of 20 new shrub plantings adjacent to North Broadway. Number 4, install a minimum of 2 new shrub plantings adjacent to Northeast 72nd Street. Number 5, all mechanical equipment on the roof shall be screened from public view by a parapet or approved screening similar design to the rest of the structure. This must be a minimum of 12 inches above the tallest piece of mechanical equipment. Number 6, a compliant monument sign shall be used to serve the development. The monument sign will need a minimum of 240 square feet of aerial landscaping around the sign. Number 7, all exterior lighting on the site shall be LED and designed to reduce adverse impact on adjoining properties. Number 8, the dumpster enclosure shall be enclosed with materials consistent with the primary building. Specific colors and materials shall be submitted and approved as part of the building permit. Number 9, trash service, store deliveries, and gasoline refilling shall occur between the hours of 7 o'clock a.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. Number 10, tractor trailers, storage containers, and other commercial vehicles shall not be parked or stored overnight on the premises. Number 11, no more than 50% of each glazed window area of the building shall have signage. Number 12, hours of operation permitted are 24 hours, 7 days per week. Number 13, install a commercial grade bike rack on site. Number 14, install new curb, gutter, and sidewalk along the property line adjacent to North Broadway. Number 15, preserve the northern wooded tree line as a buffer to the residential neighborhood located to the north along Northwest 72nd Terrace. Number 16, complete a post-construction maintenance agreement for stormwater facilities. Number 17, install a fire hydrant within 400 feet of any portion of the building. Number 18, extend and loop the 8-inch water main along North Broadway. Number 19, given the project location and that the development extends to property located in Kansas City, Missouri, this development is subject to Kansas City, Missouri approving the improvements on their parcel. And then number 20, the installation and construction of a left turn lane for right in, right out for the entrance on North Broadway at the property owner's expense. City staff recommends that the request be approved contingent upon the conditions listed. The Planning Commission also voted in favor of this project, 7 yeses and 1 no. We do have the applicant with us tonight, Gerald Menifee. He's in the audience, and I do believe he has a presentation for you guys, and I do believe ownership is here as well. So I would invite Jerry to come up and introduce himself.
My name's Gerald Menifee. My address is 6811 North Michigan, Gladstone, Missouri. This is second submittal, obviously, of this project, and from the comments we received on the last go-through, we have made several changes to address several of the concerns that were voiced by the citizens and by yourselves, and we hope these have given enough change to make you feel comfortable with approving it. One of the things we did was we had a traffic study done. The traffic engineer is here if you want to ask her any questions specifically about this study. And she basically, a summary of her study says that nothing's changed the level of service at the intersection, and that the only thing they're recommending other than that is a left-hand turn bay on Broadway. And that's about it for that. So there's nothing changed as far as traffic loads or anything other than that we'll be increasing traffic due to the generation from the site itself. The other issue was the tree line to the north, the shielding of the residential properties. Before we were taking about 50% of that out, if I recall correctly, and we had the bioretention pond there. And what we're doing now is, instead of going up there, we're leaving the trees as is. We'll only be working in the untreed area, putting a retaining wall at the north end of the site that's about 10 or 12 feet high. We shouldn't have any impact upon the tree line or anything. And we're putting the pond over on the Kansas City side. The Kansas City side will give us that's an additional area that's not been developed with trees of any sort. It's an open area that we'll be putting the bioretention basin there. The bioretention basin is, as I mentioned earlier, is for water quality purposes, the filtration of the runoff from the site, so that silt and oils and grease and whatever have you that might be generated at the site filtered out of the water flow before it reaches the creek, natural flow of the creek. That will capture the first runoff, first foot of runoff from the rest of the site. And then it'll go into an overflow, which is not shown on the drawings, but it will go over an overflow up there on the south end of the pond, next to the driveway, and go into the underground detention system like we had the last submittal. And then we'll probably run a pipe over there to the northwest corner where that notch is, and put a box there with a restrictor plate, and allow the water to run on down into the creek down there, or the drainage, but I shouldn't say it's a creek, but it's a drainage. And basically what you see here is what's going to be on the ground on the drawings as shown. For circulation purposes, we do have a driveway that runs around back with a delivery window for future use to provide food to the public. And also we've added up there toward the north end of the building, we've added 2 electrical charging stations. The circulation comes in from both the driveways into the site and then back out them to the same driveways, depending on which way the destination is, which way direction they're approaching the site from. And you can, that one doesn't have a left-hand turn bay up there. Let me see if we can, but I'll go through some of this and then we'll get to left-hand turn bay. I'm sorry about that, that's what we got. But it'll be about 5,000 square feet of convenience store with a drive-through, 14 parking spaces, which is 1 more than what's required by the code, which is 13. Oops. Gone the wrong way. I mentioned earlier 2 electrical charging spaces, 3 for bicycle parking, bioretention for water quality, underground detention for storage of excess runoff. And that will have the amount of water taken away from storage will be less than what the storage normally would be, because bioretention will take a certain amount of storage out of the subsurface detention. We're developing only 30% of the land as it comes out to be. Existing living areas are being protected. We're working on an 8-inch water main extension south to upgrade the water line there, and with a fire hydrant to adjacent to the property, provide fire protection. We relocated the driveway along 72nd Street. There was some concern about being too close to the intersection, as well as it creating an issue with cars moving in and out of the parking area of the post office. So we moved it farther back to where it's adjacent to the entranceway to the mail drop boxes there, which should prove a better situation as far as car and vehicle movements. Here's a picture of it showing the left-hand turn lane. From viewing from the northeast corner, that's something it doesn't, it's a little bit deceptive, and it doesn't have the retaining wall on the north side there, of course, but it is a representation of what it's supposed to look like. It's finished to some extent. Plus we have the 2 lanes, 2-car storage on Broadway for left-hand turn bay. Now there was some talk about earlier from Austin Greer about the use of a restricted entrance and there on the driveway on Broadway to provide a right-in and a right-out situation, which would be a triangular piece of concrete placed there. It'd be raised and it'd be a curb line so people don't run over the top of it, which they traditionally do when you lay down a curb. But it might be used instead of the left-hand turn bay in order to restrict vehicles from the left from the from Broadway itself, the traffic engineer is recommending though a left-hand turn bay. There's some elevations of the building, what it's supposed to look like when it's done, various materials. It's a typical construction, bar joist supporting the roof. On the outside edges, it supports the boy joist. Concrete stucco on the side and rear, the high curve of the screen mechanic areas was mentioned by Austin. Less than 50% glazing to have signage and matching enclosed trash dumpster using the same type of materials. And here's another view from the southeast corner over the intersection of 72nd and Broadway, showing another view of it. Does it look like from that direction? Here's a round view from the northeast corner, looking across. There's another one from the southeast corner, excuse me. We're going to have all the mature trees remain as they are, to the best of our ability. We shouldn't have any issues with mature trees because basically with the retaining wall there, we won't do any reworking of the slopes. We can just use a modular unit retaining wall, and such that it will just be right under the edge of the pavement there, go vertical down to the edge of down to the top of the soil. And that should allow us to work in that green space there. There'll probably be some disturbance on that, but that'll be restored as part of the completion of the project. We'll have a built-in irrigation system. We'll be planting trees and shrubs along Broadway and 72nd Street. And all the strip areas will be sodded and planting new vegetation to the west. I'm sorry we don't have the part, didn't show up on there about the more detailed site plan that we have, but nonetheless, I think that it's a very good project. I think it takes into effect the residents' issues to the north, creates a great shield there with the tree line that's existing by not disturbing it, plus the lights. We'd be using special lights that would deflect the light away from the north end and protect any lighting issues from the people, plus the trees themselves would also provide coverage for any light that might stray from those at all, even though it is a higher location than the houses to the north. So we're looking for your approval on this project. Welcome to answer any questions, and the traffic engineer, or any of the staff that we have along here. The owner is here, his attorney's here, and we're willing to answer any questions you have for us.
Questions?
Mr. Menifee, that property as it sits now, because I've been out there looking at it, it's raised quite a bit. So does that mean that that would be taken down to more street level?
It'll be taken down some in order to get the necessary elevations we need for the driveway, and also the frontage so we match up with the frontage of the building evenly across there. Actually, the corner will probably be reduced down, and whereas down on the north side where the retaining wall is, that'll be raised up some. So instead of having something sloping from south to north this way, we'd be cutting down on the south side and raising on the north side and leveling it out flatter. But there'd be a general overall slope of about 1 to 2% going from the south to the north, and over to the northwest corner. Actually, it runs down the side driveway and out to the pond. If you can understand what I'm trying to explain.
Any other questions? Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Jerry, just looking at it, the naked eye, how are you anticipating that the tankers and the deliveries will be made? I mean, if you're going westbound 72nd, is there enough turn radius there to get into the lot from that side?
Well, I'm not sure about that, to be honest with you. We looked at the tanker, turning radius there, but we could, certainly adjust the driveway in any way we need to get the tankers in there. And it'd probably be better to go ahead with a left-hand turn lane on North Broadway anyway, so allow tankers to enter that way rather than having the island there.
First of all, I don't want to let this pass, that you and your client did a really good job of responding to most of the concerns that could be responded to from the last meeting, last time we met. However, all the traffic issues and whatnot still remain. Does your traffic engineer wish to make a presentation at all, or should we just ask the questions?
Sure, she can make a presentation.
Great, thank you.
I don't have a presentation prepared, but I'd be happy to give you kind of a summary of what we found. That'd be helpful, and then I take any questions.
Please.
So we went through and looked at the site. We looked at the 5,000 square foot gas station. There's a couple different ways that we can calculate how many trips are generated. We went with the most conservative, meaning that we're going to assume it's going to generate be the busiest gas station based on pumps or square footage. And we looked at that drive-through. A convenience store typically generates more traffic than the same size fast food restaurant, so we kept it as a C-store when we looked at it. A convenience store, typically, we assume 75% of the traffic is already going through the adjacent intersection. Just by nature, people don't usually get up out of their homes and drive to a gas station and then drive back home. They go on their way by. So a big percentage of the trips are already going through 72nd and Broadway. Their turning movements are going to change. And so we account for that in the study. And that's part of what generated the need and the recommendation for the left turn lane, was so that they could have a pocket to get out of the way of the through traffic and turn in. That being said, the way we modeled it without the left turn lane there, and it still operated very well. These levels of service, which are kind of like grading systems in school, except that C's and D's are still good. And at that drive, it was always a B or better. And so that represents a delay of less than 15 seconds leaving the site, and everything else is much better. So at that left turn lane, there's a short storage that Jerry showed, but 95% of the time we would expect there not to be a car there at all. So the traffic flow in and out of the site was very good. Overall level of service at that signal did not change. The individual queues did change a little bit to show the shifting, if you will, and some additional trips as well. Anybody have any specific questions that I could address?
On that left turn lane, what additional footage does it require to accommodate a left turn lane right there on that street?
So a standard left turn lane, what would be ideally built if this was brand new intersection, is going to be longer than what there's room for there, because you don't want to cut into the left turn lane going south at the signal. And so I believe what's shown is a 2-car queue, and our design queue is less than 1 vehicle. So 95% of the time during a rush hour, during the peak AM or the peak PM, we don't expect there to be a car there at all. And so if you have a pocket for 2 cars to wait for oncoming traffic and turn, that is sufficient for that site.
What about the width of the street? Is there enough width of the street to accommodate that new lane?
If they can get it, yes. If they can, there may be some widening, and that's back on Jerry to actually determine if there is any widening actually needed to keep traffic flowing. The lanes don't need to be wide. Minimum lengths. So that's details that'll be worked out with the site plan and the actual construction of that lane.
Sure, please. Sorry, a bit of a disclaimer. So I've been doing this kind of stuff for a minute or two up here, and I would always tell residents that, well, I'm sorry what you think it's going to do. We have a traffic study that says otherwise. I'm going to now call myself a liar because I have 65 years on that corner. And, certain assumptions are made. Assumptions are made for, obeying traffic laws, obeying signals, obeying speed limits, everything else you can imagine. And my concern is that your northbound left turn bay with a 2-car pocket versus your southbound with 3 cars is not even close to adequate enough in real life. In my mind, the only way that works is to, have a true turn lane, and that's gonna entail, some property and probably a large expense. But the way it is now, and especially if you're staying and Jerry was correct, if we have semis that are gonna turn left off of there, that's gonna take up more than your 2-car pocket. I just don't think it works, quite frankly. And again, I don't wanna argue with the traffic study, because I always thought y'all were always right. But now I'm that dumb homeowner kind of guy who says the reality is a little bit different.
I can tell you what we found and what we observed. The AM and the PM peak, that southbound left that you're talking about, we had that design queue of 3 vehicles or less. We're engineers, we like to have twice as much as you need. And you don't have that for that southbound left, you have what you need. And so you do have capacity for the design queue at that location, even after you put the northbound. So those 2 turn lanes do nest together to accommodate our design during the peak hours. Sorry, I think there was another piece to that.
I don't, further, I'll just go on next question. And I don't recall, what's the protected turns, or protected?
Permissive.
Yeah.
Protected or permissive?
Yeah, do we have protected left turn on that signal from going northbound? No. Southbound? No. Westbound?
Westbound, yes.
Westbound.
And then you have the what we call a free right going northbound, because your westbound left and your northbound right are your heavy movements there.
That's all for now.
Can we get the map back up, please? The one that has the turn lane on it. Go one back, there you go. Mm-hmm. So I think a can of worms was sort of opened up when we were talking about this and that, transport trucks.
Oh, that was the other thing, thank you.
So, talk about that.
I will say that most delivery trucks are not gonna deliver during no peak hours. So what we design for is your morning and evening rush hours. Some trucks are on the road in the morning, they're usually not on the road at all in the PM peak hour. They're usually gone, they work early hours and they don't wanna be stuck in the congestion because time is money and they're not gonna get money doing that. So I would say most of your delivery trucks are gonna probably come in during your calmer hours of the day, and so they wouldn't have the queuing. I wouldn't expect them to have the queuing.
Where are the fuel refueling bases? Are they in the back of the building, or the fuel tank refillers, or?
Fuel tanks, I believe, are in the north end of the site. It's kind of hard to read this, it's kind of fine.
Small plan.
Small plan, that's right. I believe it's on the north side, there's a small area up there. That's where the fuel area will be. So it'll be on the area that's between the canopy and the east side of the building.
So one way or another, Jerry, there's gonna be some really tough turns that the transport truck getting in and trying to get out, regardless of which direction it goes.
Yeah, because in my opinion, there's no way a transport truck's gonna pull out of, a diesel truck is not gonna pull out of the driveway across from the post office. There's not enough range there, I don't think, for them to turn without hitting that curve every time. So it would have to be off of Broadway. then they would have to go clear around and exit, and probably go northbound down Broadway also.
And then I come in going north and turn in off of Broadway and go around the building or somehow go out on 72nd Street maybe, but, and again, I'm devil's advocate. That works until it doesn't. You have delivery trucks coming and you don't necessarily, know when. I know how that works too, so. And I don't mean to be argumentative, I just mean to really try to understand how the queuing with those left turn lanes, on Broadway to work. I mean, I see more traffic than that. I've stood there, in fact, with Councilmember Moore not too long ago, we see more stacking than that. That's all I have to say. I don't know if it works. I don't disputing your numbers, just saying that I've seen differently.
Well, if we were to provide a diagram showing the truck traffic, how it would get in there and circulate through, that would be adequate.
I'd like to see it, yeah. Then you'd have to define adequate.
Acceptable, let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you very much. At this time, we would entertain any audience members who are in favor of the application. Seeing none, any audience members opposed to the application? Mr. Bledsoe.
Coming. I don't have a dog in the fight, and I know it's been going on for a long time, but there's not very much room to the north. The neighbors don't want it to the north. The gasoline smell out of those cars and the unloading of the fuel will drip down that hill, and the people are going to smell it all summer long. There's minimum of on the drive-through side, if you actually have a drive-through, which you shouldn't, if it has one, it for sure needs a privacy fence to cut the noise down and everything else down. There's noise going to be along with that. Those trees don't grow in the wintertime. That makes there's no screening whatsoever, no noise cutting. Let's go back to Aldi's and we'll start over there again. They don't replace any of the trees that have fallen down. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, when people come up and give a comment, if you would state your name and your address for the record, appreciate it.
Either way.
Additional audience members opposed to the application?
Nice to see you again. John Prender, 406 Northwest 76th Terrace, Kansas City, Missouri. I'm an unofficial representative for the neighborhood, which includes Gladstone, as well as Kansas City, Missouri residents. I have to commend the owner. There was a lot of issues addressed, but this traffic issue, I'm not sold on. I don't understand, you got one lane northbound on North Broadway that either has to go through the intersection or make a left-hand turn. No other option. I could see that bottleneck. As people are trying to make a left, they're going to stall traffic on 72nd Street through a light change, which is going to irritate motorists. Everything that the residents have been opposed to has been mostly emotional because it impacts our lives, property values, and you all went through that before. I mean, you can't discriminate against what type of business, but what's best for the site. When I see this grandiose picture of what you want to put on there, I drive by that lot every day. I was like, where's it going to go? I can't see it fitting on there. So I'm perplexed of how that diagram is going to show up without moving. And I guess another question, what's the position of Kansas City, Missouri? Does anybody know approval for that detention basin? Is that contingent on this?
I'm not familiar with what Kansas City has approved and has not approved. Mr. Menifee, would you like to comment on that?
We've had discussions with Kansas City's people. And they basically don't have any issues with it at this time. Obviously, we have not submitted a plan set to them because we haven't got approval from Gladstone yet. But once we get into the design process, we'll submit a set of plans to them, and they'll review it, and they don't have too much interest in it in terms of making a bunch of changes to it. They're basically make sure it follows their standards and their ordinance requirements.
So would your approval have to be contingent upon what Kansas City, Missouri does, or
All right, I
if
think
you were
there's
to approve it tonight, you would?
It sounds like what Mr. Menifee is saying is that he will not even approach Kansas City until approval is given in Gladstone.
Fair.
Yes, please.
So one of the conditions in the staff report is approval of Kansas City. Contingent upon approval of Kansas City. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
That's it, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other audience members would like to speak in opposition?
I'm Vicki Marshall. I live at 401 Northwest 72nd Terrace. That gentleman spoke about what I was concerned about. I mean, we'll be so close to it that we probably will get a lot of gas smells and a lot of noise at night, because if this flies, there's going to be traffic all night long. And we'll get the worst of it, to be honest with you, because we live right on the corner. So, of course, there's a lot of other things which I've already discussed, but anyway, that's what I have to say about it. We would really be affected, so I thank you.
We thank you for coming tonight.
Thanks, sir.
Anyone else in opposition? Seeing no one else in opposition, I would like to pose a question to the other city council members with the offer to provide more information regarding the trucks pulling in and out of the facility. If it would be okay to, unless you object, for the city council, I'd like to continue this to the July 8th meeting and to get additional information. So that is, we are in agreement with that. We will not close this meeting. It will continue to stay open through the July 8th meeting, at which time we will revisit this. So moving on in the agenda, the next item would have been item number 18, which would have been the reading of the bill to approve this site plan. So we will skip that and move on to item 19, which is other business. Is there any other business to be heard this evening? Seeing none, we will adjourn.